Hi, everyone.
Welcome to my house. What did Brenda Dickinson say? Welcome to my home. I like to take in purebreds and tattoo eyebrows on them. You
Who?
ever, you ever watch that video?
Mm-mm.
I'll send it to you after this. It's really funny. You already know kids at home, don't you?
Probably. I'm not very cool. I'm an
This is
elder
an old
millennial.
video.
Oh, okay. Well, then I should
Devin
know.
Green did it. She overdubbed some Brenda Dickinson videos. It was really funny.
Okay. I guess. Who did the thing last time?
Unfortunately, you did the easy part last time, but if you
Okay.
would like, I'll do the hard part again this week.
No, it's okay. I'll do the hard part. I'm fine with it. I like
I
the
just
names,
checked
by the way.
before. Thank you. I was thinking Stephen King. Stephen King. I could have went with Stanley Kubrick though.
This is our
Hmm.
second Stephen King.
Third, if you count part two as its own separate entity.
I guess that's true. I don't though.
Yeah. I haven't read The Shining in like 40, 50 years, so I don't remember anything about it.
I feel you. I also have not read The Shining in about 40 or 50 years, so um okay.
I spelled descent wrong.
I need to try to make this as small as possible without making my window disappear. There we go. Okay. Man, we weren't ready to start recording video, but here we are.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast and welcome to fall. It's fucking 53 degrees outside and I'm
I
freezing.
know. I'm so cold. I need to bring up my space heater, but I think I gave it away.
I'm gonna order soup when I'm done. When we're done, I'm
Mm.
gonna order soup. I'm gonna order ramen, have a cup of tea.
Hmm. I don't
Okay.
like tea.
Oh, that's sad.
I
I mean, I
also I
guess not
tried
sad, but
No, I also didn't like any of that LaCroix I bought.
oh no.
I tried so hard. I'm just drinking plain water, like a
That's good.
farmer. Hmm.
No, that's not. You're not like a farmer. I'm like a child, and I'm for some reason I need for my water to be bubbly and flavored like fruits.
Hmm.
Um. So, all right, I'm gonna start recording audio.
Oh yeah, me too.
All right, there's that. I already know I have waves 'cause I did a sound check.
Oh yeah, same here. But this is always nice to see.
Yes.
Okay, Mabel.
Um. All right. So we're gonna do a three, three, two, one.
Welcome to the Idiot's Guide to Horror.
Counteracting the toxic subculture surrounding horror fandom and breaking down your favorite horror movies. With you, as always, your hosts, Cara Judd Crandall Popovich.
And Christopher Gage Creed Haberman. So everybody turn off the lights, grab your snowmobiles, and let's get ready to dissect The Shining. Ba-da-da.
Nah, nah. Or like as the soundtrack goes, womp womp
Yeah.
womp. um, so this is probably one of the most famous horror movies of all time, obviously. Based on a Stephen King novel that I think was written in the 70s. And the movie was released in 1980 and directed by Stanley Kubrick. Um,
You may know him.
you may know him from
He's dead
such.
now, though.
He is dead now. You may know him from such films as Clockwork Orange and 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Which he also changed the ending of that too, didn't he?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, because I just read the book, oh, like 30 or 40 years ago.
Right? Like I was like, oh, I just read the book in high school,
Mhm.
which was
Oh God. I'm rapidly aging in front of my own eyes.
Did you try to read it without a glossary? The Clockwork
Yes.
Orange. You did. You tried to read it
Yeah.
without a glossary. Did you do it?
I read it. Yeah, I did it. I also have it on Audible for easy access. And it makes even less sense when spoken aloud. So but
Now
I
that
got it
I'm
now.
learning Russian, it's like all Russian.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Is that what Droogs is? Is Droogs really friends?
I haven't gotten to friends yet, but I know that
Mm-hmm.
Maliko is milk and
Hmm.
Diavachka is girl.
Ah,
Yeah. So,
Welcome to this week's episode on A Clockwork Orange.
and my Russian lessons, they're going
Mhm.
well. I have a 62-day streak on Duolingo, everybody. Don't be,
Wow. I
yeah,
had like a 3 day streak on French.
really?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think this is the longest that I've ever gone, but Russian is cool because it's like learning like hieroglyphics because it's a whole different alphabet.
Yeah, that's why like I don't understand it. Like I don't even know how I could learn one would learn how to read Russian because all the letters are so different than the letters that I'm used to.
B is V. Um, N is E.
Hmm.
It's fun. It's a whole thing. Anyway, The Shining, 1980, Stanley Kubrick. Um, I'm going to apologize for my voice as well. I've had a terrible allergy week, so my throat is a little dry.
But no worries, gentle listeners. My voice is as sultry as ever.
It is indeed. That's
I
true.
don't know what sultry means. I'm gonna Google it later.
Sultry means like sensual.
Oh, ooh, yeah.
So you were right. Spot on. Good job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So where you can watch this right now, it's on HBO Max. Um, it is 2.5 hours long. So just prepare yourself because apparently a movie made from a Stephen King book cannot be shorter than 2.5 hours long. It's just not possible.
Just watch the Langoliers.
I
That's
mean, it's a great movie. The Langoliers is a great movie.
long.
It's long. It's very long.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can't like there's no movie version of The Stand, so every version of The Stand is like 6 hours long because it's
Yeah.
always a miniseries. Um,
Stephen King, write a shorter book.
I don't know if he's
1408,
capable.
1408 with John Cusack was based on a Stephen King short story. I don't think it's that long.
Stand By Me is also based on a Stephen King short story, and it's only like I think like an hour and 45 minutes long. I could be wrong.
Hmm.
Um,
I need my movie to be a tight 90 minutes
I feel you. I
unless it's like amazing.
I like a 2.5 hour movie sometimes if I really need to sink my teeth into something. But I need to be at home.
Hmm.
Like Malignant was like what, like 2 hours long? That was too
Yeah,
long.
but it didn't feel like it. Oh, we have different opinions on Malignant.
Uh, we'll talk about it at some point.
Hmm.
Maybe we'll do that soon before it goes off of HBO Max. But
I mean, but like
I
Boyhood was how long? Two and a
Boyhood,
half, 3 hours?
it was like 4 hours long,
Oh God, I
right?
it was great. I will never watch it again. Stop
I
doing that.
I don't understand.
Titanic, I'm done with it. You
Oh,
get one.
you know how I feel about Titanic. Not a fan. Boyhood, I didn't understand how people could see it in the theater. It's 2 hours and
Yeah.
45 minutes long. I grossly over exaggerated.
Not grossly. You overrate that over like an hour.
Um, I just always, I don't know. I feel like the only movie that I can't believe it's actually as long as it is like Citizen Kane. I don't
Never
feel
seen it.
like when I watched Citizen Kane, I've only seen it once, but I didn't
Hmm.
feel like I had been sitting there for 4 hours. It felt like I was sitting there for like
It's
maybe
four
two.
hours long.
It's 4 hours long.
Do you know, in 2018, I did a movie challenge where I watched a movie every day for a year,
Hmm.
and everyone's like, "Chris, end the marathon with Citizen Kane," and I said, "No, I'm watching the dumbest movie ever made, Kingpin," and I did. I got a lot of hate for that. A
Really?
lot of hate for Kingpin. Yeah, whatever.
It's your
If I
life. It's
would,
your challenge.
yeah, and I watched The Godfather, and I really didn't want to. And everyone's like, Chris, watch The Godfather. Chris, watch The Godfather. Was it great? Sure, it was great. It's too long.
And you haven't even seen the second one.
I don't think I ever will, honestly.
The second one is it's better than the first one. Like it's one of those rare like they were right in Scream
Mm-hmm.
2. The second Godfather is far better than the first one. But it is insanely long. It is another one that's like 2.5, maybe almost 3 hours long because that's a Francis Ford Coppola. Never mind. It just always comes back to like why are mob movies so fucking long?
Mm-hmm. See, I have a hard like During my Hooptober experience, I have been watching movies in short bursts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've sat there for a whole movie other than Frontiers. And no, Psycho Gorman, I had to take a break.
And that one was short. That was like an
Yeah.
hour, 20
Yeah,
minutes long or something.
it was like 82 minutes.
I loved Psycho Gorman, but in like a weird way that I also hated it.
See, I know we meant to talk about this like a year ago whenever you watched it and told me to watch it. I watched it for the first time last night. I think I loved it.
It's a weird, like, I'm like, is this garbage or is this the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life? I can't
It's
tell.
adult Power Rangers, and I loved it.
Um, it is like for me, it felt like okay, The Godfather Part 2 is 3 hours and 22 minutes long.
I'm out.
um, for me, Psycho Gorman was it was like a Guar show. Like it had like the
Mm-hmm.
same aesthetic as a Guar show, which like I'm gonna be upfront. I never went to the Guar show because Guar shows because I enjoyed the music. That wasn't why I was there. I'm not a metal person. I go for the theatrics and I go to get covered in fake blood.
The
Um,
only Guar experience I have is from Empire Records.
I mean, that's a pretty safe distance to keep. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that is like, I probably won't do it again. The last time I did it, I was like 27 or 28. We're getting so off topic.
Mm-hmm.
But the last time I did it, I was like 27 or 28, and I was like, I'm getting too old for this shit. Um, but they have a really crazy stage show, and it looks like and has the same feel as Psycho Gorman.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that it's not influenced by Guar's stage shows or like their movies. Um, but yeah. Anyway, do you want to regale us with a back of the box description? I can do it too. I know that maybe you're tired of being the back of the box description guy.
I'll do it this week, and you can do it next week, and we'll just go back and forth like we do the easy parts and the hard parts.
Okay. All right. That's fair because this is a hard part too, and I'm just making you do it all the time.
Picture it. 1980. You and your family are driving up to the mountains. Maybe you'll all survive, maybe you won't. You stop to rent a video because there's no cable TV, and you're looking for something fun, light, and airy. So you go to the horror section. You find this yellow VHS. It says The Shining on the front. You flip it over, and it reads Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, becomes a winter caretaker of the isolated Overlook Hotel in Colorado. Hoping to cure his writer's block, he settles in along with his wife, Wendy, Shelley Duvall, and his son, Danny Lloyd, who is plagued by psychic premonitions. As Jack's writing goes nowhere and Danny's visions become more disturbing, Jack discovers the hotel's dark secrets and begins to unravel into a homicidal maniac hell bent on terrorizing his family.
That is, yeah, long description for a long movie.
Yeah.
um, so, spoiler warning if for some reason you don't know how The Shining goes, we're going to talk about this movie in depth up to and including the ending. So, if you haven't seen this movie, please pause this episode and watch it. I mean, yeah, if you haven't seen The Shining, even if you're not a horror movie person, it should be on the to do list. I think it's one of those like 1001 movies to see before you die kind of things. Um, anyway, um, so movie facts. We're gonna give you some facts about this freaking movie. Um, so Stephen King wrote a screenplay for the movie, but Stanley Kubrick refused to read it,
Yeah.
which
Whatever.
which seems like a prequel to.
I try to do these in some sort of order. Movie fact number two, Stephen King hated this movie. He also hated the casting of Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance because the last movie Jack was in was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and he played a quote unquote crazy person. And Stephen King said that you could already identify Jack with crazy, and his gradual descent into madness is wasted.
I have to say, this viewing was the first time I agreed with Stephen King on this. Like for a long time I've been like, what is he talking about? Jack Nicholson
Mm-hmm.
is Jack Torrance. And like now like I watched it the other night and I was like, "Oh, what's with all the like tongue work, my guy? Like
Right.
what are you doing?" Like
When they're
what's
talking about cannibalism in the car and Jack's just like smiling, talking about how the Donner Party ate themselves.
right with the eyebrows like in a perfect like
Mm-hmm.
triangle arch.
Yeah.
Um yeah, it is a little like I can imagine. I don't know, he doesn't seem like a good guy from the beginning. Like he seems nefarious and evil from the
Right.
beginning.
We can
So,
tell that he's a bad person.
right. Yeah. Um so it just seems when he is like going crazy and like getting really aggressive that like it's just always been this way.
Mm-hmm.
um The Timberland Lodge, which was the site of the Overlook Hotel, requested that they use room number 237 instead of room 217 because they didn't actually have room 237 and they didn't want guests to avoid the room.
Yeah, in the book, the room was 217 and they didn't want to scare away guests. But what I didn't type out there is that room 217 became their most popular room after this.
I can imagine so.
Yeah, because even like the hotel where Jeffrey Dahmer lived and did all his murders is people go to that hotel and they're begging for that room now.
Don't get it. Don't
Mhm.
understand.
People, we're all
Don't
weird.
I don't like it's interesting to like hear about it, but like I don't really need to like be all up in like that business. It feels
Hmm.
weird and disrespectful to be like, I want to be where the murders happened. Like,
I mean, if you think about it, who wasn't murdered somewhere? You know, there's
who wasn't murdered somewhere?
somebody's been murdered everywhere, is what I mean. Like, you can't, there's not like a safe space
Don't
where somebody
freak
hasn't
me
been
out.
brutally murdered.
Don't freak me
They're
out.
coming to get you, Barbara.
Do you want to do the
Um,
next one?
Stanley Kubrick was a serious dick to Shelley Duvall during filming. Um, she was frequently ill during this because of the ways he would direct her, like using scares and everything. Like her hair started to fall out. She was ill the entire time. Um, he made her do the scene where she's swinging the baseball bat at Jack Nicholson 127 times to get it right. It is in the Guinness Book of Records for the most takes for a scene with spoken dialogue.
Um, I know that our generation knows Shelley Duvall from the video "Hi, I'm Shelley Duvall." Um,
Mm-hmm. But she
but
was also on Fairy Tale Theater.
yes, um, she ended up having like a pretty serious psychosis that lasted a very long time and is still seemingly active. And she is still like anytime they somebody manages to drag her out in front of the media, it's a fucking circus and it's terrible. Stanley Kubrick technically ruined Shelley Duvall's life and sanity. So
At least his daughter, Stanley Kubrick's daughter, is paying for treatment for her.
that's really cool. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to create the snow in the hedge maze, it took 900 tons of salt and crushed styrofoam.
Can you
Wow.
believe that?
Wow. Did they film in the summertime?
I didn't even look, but it's like in I know you did last summer whenever they were going through all that styrofoam there too to make it look like snow or ice or whatever. Um, Speaking of Hedge Maze, originally Stanley Kubrick thought the Hedge Maze was going to be too easy to solve, so the crew challenged him to try, and he was unable to find his way out. So good for him.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny to me. A little taste of your own medicine,
Yeah.
Stan. The scene where Jack chases Danny through the maze took a month to shoot because the crew members kept getting lost. That is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
This is so funny. I like really thought that they didn't like all these years I didn't know that they like actually built a maze.
I don't know if it was actually there or what's going on. Like But like this movie. I didn't write this down, but this movie took over 5 years to film, which is a very long time.
That is insane.
Allegedly, because I've seen this on some websites and not on others. Stanley Kubrick's secretary had to type up all 500 pages of all work and no play, make Jack a dull boy, and it took her months to do it.
I thought about that this time, so I'm glad you grabbed this. When she's like grabbing through those pages, and there's so many of
Hmm.
them, I was like, somebody had to do this. Like some
Yeah,
poor PA or someone had to like sit there and like type the same sentence over and over and over again for probably like just hours and hours.
they didn't have these fancy things we got now.
Right,
Computers. Yep.
right. Ugh, I'm so sorry. The elevator scene took a year to film. Each take took 9 days to fill the elevator with blood and clean the hallway. I did actually know that one. That's so like, um, is this like until it came along and stole the title? Was this still like the most like blood used on a film
No,
set?
um, not Maniac Cop. What there was a Dead Alive.
Oh, okay, that makes sense to me.
Hmm. This is Danny Lloyd's only film that he was ever, in, who played Danny Torrance. Except he did make a brief appearance in Doctor Sleep as a spectator at a baseball game.
I mean, I guess like when you've already like done the thing,
Hmm.
why would you do anything else?
I mean, I'm sure he's still getting residuals, so
Yeah,
hopefully he's
yeah.
okay.
I'm sure he's fine.
Hmm.
He's fine. He's fine.
We're all
Um,
fine.
yeah, everybody's fine.
Hmm.
Um, all right, so let's try and crash through this walkthrough as fast as we can because this is a 2.5 hour long movie.
Oh,
Um,
don't worry. When I took these notes, it was the worst day of my entire life, so they're all short.
I didn't even take notes. I just didn't. I was like, I got like five cutscenes in, and I was like, nope, we're done
Hmm.
here. Like, I'm just gonna do my best.
And that's
Um,
all we ask. We're just here to do our best, guys. So
try.
whatever. Hmm.
All right, so The Shining opens with a beautiful aerial shot of a car driving through the mountains, station wagon driving through the mountains, through a tunnel, and it's actually the car of Jack Torrance. And he arrives at the Overlook Hotel to interview for the open position of winter caretaker. Um, so he meets with the manager and
Who's
finds
wearing a wig?
wearing such a wig.
Hmm.
It's a whole wig. The hotel itself is built on the site of an Indian burial ground.
Why would
And
they tell that?
I know, I know. Why? Why?
Like that's
And like in a bragging way too. Like he's like
yeah.
really like, we paved over the graves of and like I think that he uses like a slur.
He might have. This was the 80s. They were not nice to anybody.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories about The Shining being about like the revenge of like Native Americans and um I don't know, there's a whole documentary called Room 237. It's a whole lot
Oh
of
yeah. And how this is Stanley Kubrick's way to apologize for faking the moon landing. No, this is the way he convinced he this is his yeah, something. He faked the moon landing, everybody. There it is.
yeah, he supposedly filmed the fake moon landing. Um so yeah, the hotel's built on that burial ground. And it becomes completely snowbound during the winter, so they need somebody to stay there and turn the boiler on in different rooms and stuff. Um, and Jack is a teacher, but he's just quit to become a writer. So this is a perfect job for him because he wants to be in seclusion so that he can write and still make money. Um, Meanwhile, at home,
Ugh. Guys, now you know me. Wendy is sitting there at home with her
I knew it.
freshly born son. I don't know how old this kid is. Four,
Freshly
five,
born.
seven, eight, nine,
I
10.
think that he's supposed to be like 6.
So Wendy's sitting at home with her 6-year-old freshly birthed son who's eating a bowl of cereal watching cartoons, and she's smoking a goddamn cigarette right in his face.
She like doesn't smoke a cigarette anywhere else but around Danny.
Yeah.
Like the entire movie, she only smokes cigarettes around Danny. Like
And we wonder why he's disassociating because he's dying of cigarette smoke.
this is what gave him the ESP. He's like, thanks for the
Mm-hmm.
curse,
Yeah.
Wendy.
Yeah.
Um,
Now I can see things that aren't really happening yet or whatever.
so Wendy asks Danny if he's excited to go to the hotel and live in the hotel, and he's like, I guess so. And like he's like, but Tony doesn't want to. Tony doesn't want to go, and it was like, why doesn't Tony want to go? And does he do it then? Like
He
I
does the
don't,
finger.
I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about it. It's
Mm-hmm.
terrifying. I I hate Tony. It's so scary. Um, which like Tony didn't come up in Doctor Sleep.
No, no, no.
Tony is never like readdressed
Was Tony then like I don't remember if Tony was even in The Shining, honestly.
in the book.
Yeah.
I'm
I'd
not
have to
sure.
walk downstairs and get it, but I don't
That's
have
too
the
far.
time.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we've come too far. Um, so yeah, he's got his imaginary friend that lives in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he has well, we figure out pretty early on that The Shining is what Danny has. It's actually a reference to Danny's psychic abilities. And he has a premonition of the famous elevator scene where the blood is like rushing out of the elevator in a tidal wave, and he passes out. And the doctor comes to visit. They have a visiting doctor come to visit. Isn't that like? I wish that was still a thing for people who weren't rich.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't know. I'm very wealthy. My doctor comes over every day. We play canasta, you know? So that's how wealthy I am. Thank you.
That's yes, play
Hmm.
canasta. um, so yeah, Jack's wife, Wendy, um, she's telling the doctor about Tony, and the doctor asks like when Tony came to be, and Shelley, oh my god, I keep wanting to call her Shelley. Wendy, who first of all is dressed like Raggedy Ann,
Hmm.
um, she's like
Oh, she
exactly
really is.
like Raggedy Ann, and then later on she looks like lumberjack Raggedy Ann. Like
Yeah, but there's a scene where she's wearing this yellow thing that I love.
that's I couldn't like every time I watch this, I'm like, why did they put her in like moo
Uh-huh.
and rags? Like she
She's wearing like this red thing with blue things on it. I don't know what's
it's like a
happening.
it's a straight up Raggedy Ann outfit. It's like
Hmm.
red sleeves with like it's like a blue overalls, but it's also a turtleneck and it's like down to the
Hmm.
floor.
And she
It's
has little
just
red
like
circles painted on her cheeks and everything.
it's just so exaggerated, like matronly.
Hmm.
Like like they're
And we
really
know that
going,
she's not like a very good matron because she keeps smoking around this baby.
yeah, this baby, this full on baby, this fresh newborn baby.
This newborn 6 year as a gay man, I don't know anything about children. I don't know how old they ever are. You could show me this one, and one of them is 15, and one of them is 9, but I'll never know the difference. It's a curse.
Uh, so we also learn at this time because Wendy just like offers up this information very easily, um,
Hmm.
that Jack is an alcoholic in recovery, and he only got sober because one night he came home and Danny was like playing with his papers or something. Like he was when he was a teacher, Danny was playing with his papers, and he like dislocated Danny's shoulder. How do you like? I don't know. I just like Jack's not a good guy. Um,
We also learned during Jack's interview that the previous caretaker of the Overlook Hotel murdered his
right.
wife and children with an axe,
Yeah. Normal.
which,
Normal.
hmm I
Yeah.
mean, comparing that to dislocating that baby's arm, I guess it's better, but like,
Um,
there's no good father figures in this movie, is what I'm saying.
no, it's definitely not. It's not. Yeah. Nobody's a really good parent here. Um,
Mm-mm.
so
Wendy tries.
yeah, she tries, but she's not. She
Yeah.
also does a lot of like, I mean, we'll get to this later, but she does a lot of like, we're in imminent danger, so like, I'm gonna leave and you lock the door, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, very annoying. So the family drives to the hotel. Um, Wendy says something about the Donner Party. We also learn that Wendy is a quote unquote certified
Horror
ghost
movie addict.
story.
Oh yeah, ghost. I wrote it down. Hold on. Wendy is a confirmed ghost story and horror film addict.
Same.
I don't really
Um,
like ghosts. Like they don't do anything for me.
really?
Hmm.
I'm pretty like I'm scared of I'm more scared of ghosts than most other things. So,
I don't really believe in them,
oh.
but we'll see.
Oh,
I, I don't.
okay.
I don't believe in. I don't believe in anything. Like I'm no fun to be around
You're a blast. You play
hmm
canasta with your doctor every day
every day. Yeah.
on your yacht.
Hmm.
So they're driving through the mountains and Wendy says something about like didn't the Donner Party like wasn't that somewhere around here? And like they just are open with little Danny that the Donner Party was, a group of people that had to resort to cannibalism when they were stranded in the winter. And Danny's like, "Oh, don't worry, Mom. I know all about cannibalism. I saw it on the TV." Um, which, like, why? How did he?
I don't
There was
know.
like five channels.
I know, and like there's five channels, and Wendy, who should be a better mother, not smoking around her child, should be limiting what we're watching on TV so that we don't know about cannibalism at the age of 2.
Probably. Um, she
Don't
kind of
blame TV, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of just has him in front of the TV a lot. Like, no judgment. I know that, like, being a parent is hard and, like, playing isn't, like, the most fun thing to do when you're a grown up. But, like, the kid definitely is, like, parked in front of the TV quite a
Hmm.
bit in this movie. Um, so they arrive at the hotel, and it's the last day that the hotel is open. And they're shown their apartment and everything, and they're given a tour and they are taken into the kitchen and Danny uh, has a mental connection with Dick Halloran, who is the chef played by Scatman Crothers. um,
That's quite a name, isn't it?
yeah. um, he was a funny guy,
Hmm.
so like it's really this was very like I don't know, like how like it feels seeing like Chris Rock do a dramatic like when we watched Spiral and it was like
Hmm.
what the hell is
Yeah,
this?
with all that Botox.
Right. Right, yeah. That was what it was like for people I think in 1980. They were like, "What is
Hmm.
Scatman Crothers doing? Like doing a like serious role?" But he's giving them a tour of the kitchen, and then he speaks to Danny telepathically and asks him if he wants ice cream. Um, so he sits down with Danny and he explains like, do you see things like, and Danny like doesn't really say anything. And he says like, I know you heard me. My grandmother and I used to just sit and have conversations like this, and without actually saying a word. She called it The Shining, which like they said it.
Yeah,
They
you
said
get
they said
one.
it. They said it. They said the title. They said it. Um,
That's why I walked out of the movie. I'll think of it. I walked out of a movie because they kept saying the title over and over again.
no. He asks Danny if he knows anything about the hotel, and Danny asks if there's anything to be afraid of in the hotel, particularly in room 237. And Halloran tells Danny that the hotel itself has a shine to it, along with many memories, which are not all good. And he strictly warns Danny to avoid room 237. And I think he says it's none of your business or something like that. Like, you have no
Mm-hmm.
business going in there. Um, but so, I mean, like, we're already, like, we know we're in the shit. Like, this kid is about to just be, like, seeing ghosts for 5 months, the poor little bastard. And as we learn in Doctor Sleep, it eventually turns him into, like, a big old mess.
Mm-hmm. I
Which, like,
mean,
predictable.
yeah.
Predictable. Um,
Okay.
so, anyway, there's, like, a title card, and we learn,
Tuesday.
yeah.
I wrote them
um,
all down, then I stopped.
um, so Jack is writing, but he's not really writing very much. Danny and Wendy are running around the hedge maze, and Jack discovers like he sees a model of the maze, and Wendy and Danny are inside of it in one of the hotel lounges. Um, so he's already going a little bonker balls.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what it's there starts to be like she's hearing about snow that's going to come in, so she gets worried about the phone lines being out, and she radios to like the rangers, the park ranger. Like, what? Who were they? Were they cops?
I wrote down cops, but they don't really tell us.
Like, um, they're just, I don't know. They're friendly people on the radio who are
Mm-hmm.
just like chit chatting with Wendy
Yeah,
about,
they seem really nice.
yeah. I just like the way she says over after everything.
Uh, um, little Danny, that little infant baby, is riding that little tricycle around
That
the
embryo.
hotel. That little baby embryo. Um, Him and his little bowl cutter driving around the hotel. He stops at room 237, but it's locked, so he drives away. We're gonna cut to Jack, who is in his office, which is literally the lobby of a hotel, and Wendy comes in, asks him how he's doing, if he's getting any work done, and he's literally just ignoring her and giving her short one-word answers. And she says she'll come back later with sandwiches. So Jack says that she's breaking his concentration. He takes all the pages he just typed up and rips them up. And he goes, new rule. Whenever I'm in here and you can hear typing or you can't hear typing, you don't come in. He's not really nice. Like,
No.
we're like one day in and he's
And
already being very mean.
I think that this is supposed to be like a month later. Like, I don't
We're like
think.
1 month in and he's already being very mean.
Right. Yeah. Um, but like, I mean, no, I don't get it. Like, as a writer, like, it's not that crazy. Like, to like, yeah, no, you're fine. To
Mm-hmm.
be interrupted. But he's
And he's
like,
written nothing. No offense. He's
yeah,
written nothing.
yeah, no, he has like one page, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like
And he
smacking
ripped it up.
himself in the head and saying like, it makes me unable to concentrate. Um,
Yeah.
being
Calm down.
very Jack Nicholson.
Mm-hmm. You know
They
who we
don't.
should have got to play this was Christian Slater.
In
Mm.
Doctor Sleep, they went with like the guy from Hill House, and he was the little kid in ET,
Hmm.
which was very surprising to me.
I loved Doctor Sleep.
I
Loved it.
maybe I need to rewatch it. I did not like it when I watched it the first time.
It
It,
was. I read the book more recently, and I feel like it was more accurate to the book than The Shining was, because The Shining wasn't that accurate. But I
mhm.
can't remember because it's literally been 110 years since I've read The Shining. Maybe I'll do it again, but I don't have the time, so I'm not going to do it.
um,
Elvira's book's being delivered tomorrow. I don't have the time.
who has the time? You got to read Elvira's
Hmm.
book.
Yeah.
Um, ba ba ba.
Oh yeah. So there's a snowball fight. Jack's staring out the window. He's getting like rage because they're having a great time and isn't here. Can't write.
He's
The
doing
blizzard
psycho face.
happens. Yeah. The blizzard happens. Wendy can't make a phone call because I don't know who she was trying to call, but it was somebody probably important. Also, here's where she's wearing that yellow blazer and a scarf, like
Oh
just like walking
yeah,
around the hotel. Adorable. If I was in this hotel, I'd be wearing the same outfit I'm wearing right now, which is a hoodie and sweatpants all the time.
yeah, yeah. I've really
Like
just
she
kind of
dresses up
simplified things to like that's what I've got.
like you're lucky if I change my clothes once or twice a week. But
Right,
like she's in a new outfit every day. You gotta love her for it.
right.
Anyway, she phone calls those nice strangers um, that we don't know what their profession is, and they say the storms are taking out the phone lines, and they'll probably be down until spring. Um, Again, Danny's riding that tricycle around. He sees the twins. Did we meet the twins yet? We met the twins. We just haven't mentioned it. There's these two twin girls in blue dresses hanging around this hotel. Um, so Danny's riding around the tricycle, and it's like a tracking shot. It's really good. It's like a really good shot of this movie. And it stops. We stop, and it's Danny faced with these two twin girls, and they have this weird accent, and they're saying, "Hello, Danny, come and play with us." And then it like does a cutaway to them murdered,
Mm-hmm.
axe murdered on the ground in blood. He covers his eyes. They're just pictures in a book. They're not real. It's just like pictures in a book. They're not real. Um, so yeah, so we're starting to see things that may or may not be real, but
Yeah, and
you never
then
know.
um, he also this is at some point he goes into room 237
That's
and
after this, after he goes upstairs to get his toy, but his dad's asleep.
yeah, and like Jack like puts him on his knee and gives him like a bunch of like forehead kisses and stuff and says like
Mm-hmm.
I'd never do anything to hurt you. I love you so much. I love you and your mom so much. Um, so it's like Jack is like fighting his insanity, but he's not fighting it that hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so um, then like Danny and Wendy are watching TV in the some room, some giant room with a tiny TV,
Mm-hmm.
and he asks like, "Can I go upstairs and get my like fire engine?" And like really insists on like wanting his fire engine, but she's like, "Your dad's sleeping. Just be really quiet." So he goes to sneak in and like has that weird interaction with Jack. Um,
Yeah.
and then he winds up in room 237, which the door is slightly ajar. And that's all we see. It cuts away.
Mm-hmm.
And then, um, is it like.
Oh, then the Jack screaming thing while Wendy's down in the furnace boiler room.
Mhm,
We can hear Jack screaming and making these weird noises. He's
yeah,
grunting. Um, Wendy runs upstairs, shakes him awake, and he says that he had a dream that he killed Wendy and Danny and cut them up in little pieces.
and
And
he's
this is when
sobbing.
little yeah, and little baby infant Danny walks in and he's covered in bruises and
Mm-hmm.
scratches and he's not speaking. And we're led to believe that Wendy thinks it was Jack who was just having a murderous dream about him. And then, in fact, we do learn that Wendy thinks it was Jack because she says it here shortly after.
Right, yeah, because
Um,
she's like, "You did this to him, you bastard, you bastard."
mhm,
Um, and Jack's like, I didn't lay a hand on the kid, like blah blah blah. So he starts to see shit.
mhm.
He uh, wanders into the gold room of the hotel, which is like the ballroom, and imagines like there's no alcohol in there, but he
Mm-mm.
imagines a full bar and a bartender, um, and
And he doesn't even question why Lloyd is there.
right, and he knows Lloyd's name.
Mhm.
Like he's just like, "Hey Lloyd, like how's it going?" or whatever. Um,
He
and
talks real weird to Lloyd.
there's like a weird exchange.
Mhm.
Um, and then he orders a drink and he gets like a finger or two of bourbon on the rocks. And he says like to 5 miserable months on the wagon and then drinks the drink. So
Does this count as a relapse though? Because I think it's in his imagination.
I don't know. I don't know what he's actually consuming. I don't know if he's
Yeah.
actually imbibing anything. I
There's a
don't
lot of
know,
this
like,
movie that doesn't make sense to me.
right. I thought about that this time, like why, like it's just doesn't seem like, I don't know, it doesn't seem likely that he would actually be like drinking ghost whiskey.
Mhm. But I
Ghost
guess we'll never know.
Ghost whiskey would be a pretty interesting name for like a bluegrass band, right?
I'm gonna start it.
You're welcome,
Mhm.
everyone, in a
Yeah.
bluegrass band. Um, all of our listeners in a bluegrass band, you're welcome.
Every single one of them
Yeah,
loves bluegrass. I
right.
read the messages. Yeah.
Um, he complains to the bartender about his relationship with Wendy, and then Wendy shows up sobbing with. Does she have the baseball bat at that point? Yeah,
Yeah.
she has the baseball bat, and she shows up sobbing and says like, I know it wasn't you. Like Danny told her that there was a crazy woman in one of the rooms that like beat him up, and she says like room 237. And so Jack goes to investigate room 237, and he walks in, and there's a woman, a beautiful young naked woman that emerges from the bathtub. Um, and she just like steps out and they start kissing.
Mhm.
And then during that kiss, she like becomes like an
Bloated.
old, yeah, an older rotting woman who like
And I don't
chase
mean bloated as in like large. I meant her skin is bloated, like waterlogged. You know
like
what I
been
mean?
dead for a very long time in some water.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so she chases Jack out. She's like cackling.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
Um, so he goes back to the room and tells Wendy he saw nothing. Normal. Wendy and Jack, like Wendy wants Danny to leave the hotel. She thinks it's not good for him. And, you know, Jack is saying like he's not going anywhere. And they have a big argument. And then Jack returns to the gold room and there's like a bunch of people having a costume party now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he gets something spilled all over him, and like I think it's like it's supposed to be like the bathroom attendant is
Yeah, something.
yeah, is actually the ghost of the previous caretaker that murdered his wife and kids.
Grady. Delbert
Grady.
Grady.
Yes. Um and he tells Jack that he has to quote unquote correct his wife and child.
I don't like what does he mean when Grady says that Jack has always been the caretaker at the Overlook?
I think it's just like you've always been this crazy. Like, it's always been, like, this has always been in you. This, like, murderous instinct has always been in you. You've always wanted to do this.
I'm sure he was a horrible school teacher.
Probably, yeah. That's, good
Hmm.
point. Good
Like if
point.
he, no offense, no full offense, it doesn't even matter. But like he's so bad with his own child that he's gonna sit there in a room full of children all day. I don't see it.
Right. Um, so he kind of agrees with Grady. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna punish him. Like they
Hmm.
need to be punished or whatever." Um, During this time, he sabotages, like he removes some sort of chip from the hotel's two-way radio. Um, and I I like this must be the time that he like fucks up the snowmobile thing too.
It must be, but they never
We
like
don't
show
see
it.
it. Yeah.
But we do know that Dick Halloran is flying to Denver because he can't call in to the Overlook because the radios are down, and he also shared a vision with Danny
Danny
of
worked
room.
really hard to share a vision with him.
Hmm. And that's why he passed out a little bit ago.
Hmm.
But so Dick is now flying to the Overlook or close enough to rent a snow. We'll get there. Um, there's also a lot of N words in this scene, so fast forward through that.
Yeah, that was in the Grady scene.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Like a
he's
lot of
saying
them.
like your son involved a third party, and then there's a bunch of that.
Yeah.
Bunch of racial slurs.
Oh,
Um,
Wendy's planning her escape now, and Danny's in bed screaming red rum, red rum, red rum.
yeah, in the Tony voice,
Mm-hmm.
because he has since become strictly Tony. Um, yeah, Danny isn't here, Mrs. Torrance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's screaming red rum in that weird voice. Um,
I don't
and
like that voice.
yeah. Uh, so is this when she turns around and sees that it says no? That's later.
No. Now she's gonna go downstairs and try to talk to Jack with a baseball bat,
Mm-hmm.
but she sees she sees his manuscript in this cute little thingy
A
that
box.
hold all of
Yeah.
his papers.
Yeah.
And this is where she sees that all of his work and all of his typing for the last however many months they've been locked up in this hotel, which I think is 3 days, but whatever. Um, he has just written all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, which we
Over and
know to
over
be
and over.
500 times on 500 pages because we know the movie facts, we told you them already, but like it's 500 pages of that typed over and over again on a typewriter.
Probably
Some of
like
it's in prose, some of it is like spaced out and make funny shapes, some of it is spelled wrong, you know.
yeah,
But
probably
then
like
Jack
tens of
shows up.
thousands. Yeah.
Hmm. Jack shows up and he says, "How do you like it?" Um,
That's a really good Jack Nicholson.
Thank you. I'm literally just doing Christian Slater, and I don't like because they're similar.
Okay.
That's the only way I can do Jack Nicholson is to channel Christian Slater. They have the same eyebrows. They have the same like mannerisms. What are we talking about?
True.
Oh,
Anyway. um,
um, yeah. Jack wants to discuss what should be done with Danny, and
yeah.
Wendy wants to take him to a doctor, and that's not good.
Yeah. And then he starts like walking towards Wendy while she's backing up slowly and crying. And this is the
Hmm.
scene that she had to do, what was it, 167 times?
127, I think.
Okay. Um, well, fuck me. Like, that's
I was
still,
reading letterbox comments, and they were just criticizing Shelley Duvall's performance.
that's
Can you
not,
believe that?
that's not nice.
She's been through so much. Leave her alone. But here's my favorite quote of the movie is when she's backing up swinging the bat slowly. He says that Jack says, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your fucking brains in.
Right.
I love
Normal.
it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so he keeps coming towards her, so she makes good on her promise and she knocks him unconscious with the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And then she drags him into the kitchen pantry and locks him in. Um,
We'll get to that. I was going to ask a question, but we'll get to it in a minute.
um, so he starts like saying to her like, "Oh, you got a surprise coming to you, Wendy?" Like, "Yes, you do," or whatever.
And then he
And
switches real quick. Oh, you hurt me real bad. I need to go to a doctor.
right. Um, but Wendy discovers that he ruined the radio and that he like fucked up the snowmobile too.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, damn. Okay. Um, I'm very cold, so I'm trying to fold in on myself and my microphone like shot in the opposite direction. Um,
We didn't even notice. Everything's fine.
um, so wait, where are we at? Right.
Um,
Oh yeah, the
the
kitchen
snow
pantry.
car's broken.
No,
Grady comes in and tells Jack he's got to do something with Wendy and Danny.
right.
Dick is driving up to the hotel in his snow car.
That he got
Danny's
from a
walking around
friend.
the house screaming, Red rum, red rum. Like Wendy is in bed sleeping, and Tony is walking around the house saying, Red rum, red rum.
So
It's,
let me
it's a
ask.
little much.
Let me ask about these scenes with Scatman Crothers. Do you
Mm-hmm.
think that he just had to like contractually had to be in so much of the movie because those scenes feel like filler? Like
They are filler.
the scenes when he's like on the plane, like
Mm-hmm.
we can get the point that he's on the plane without it being so long. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the scene when he's like phoning the park rangers, very long. The scene when he's like talking to his friend about getting a snowmobile, very long.
I feel
So
like they really wanted this movie to be 2.5 hours long, and they needed these scenes to do it.
right, yeah. There's quite a bit of filler, um, and we're cutting through all of that. We're trying to slash through that bullshit so we can just
Mm-hmm.
get you the goods. Um, and we're coming up on the end here. This is pretty much the end.
Yeah,
So
this is where the mirror thing you were talking about earlier happens.
yeah. So first of all, once again, Wendy, great parent, just, locks her murderous husband in the pantry, lies down, takes a nap.
Yeah,
Explain the logic to me.
I I literally can't. She just she says, I've had enough. I need some me time. I'm gonna go take a nap and then wake up and have a bubble bath. And she takes a nap. Danny slash Tony is walking around the house with a butcher knife and he's stealing her makeup.
Ah, flashbacks to me as a child.
Um, in Wendy's lipstick, Tony slash Danny writes red rum on the door. He writes some of the letters backwards, some of them forwards. Who knows why?
Hmm.
Um, he's still screaming red rum in his little high pitched, gravelly voice. And Wendy finally wakes up, looks in the mirror, sees that it says murder. Spoiler alert, red rum is just murder backwards.
Right. Like, okay.
She screams, there's a lot of screaming.
No.
And here's the part we all remember from the memes where Jack is chopping down the bathroom door with the axe. How did Jack get out of the pantry? Did Grady let him out?
Grady let
Was
him out.
Grady corporeal enough to?
Apparently.
Because Wendy
Apparently.
couldn't even open that pantry for like
Right.
10 minutes. Her just trying to pull the handle, seeing that it was locked, and she's just pulling on it. So you're
Right.
telling me that Grady could touch it? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's real and what's not real in this movie.
Yeah. It seems like when it comes to Jack, like the ghosts are able to interact in like a tangible way.
I mean, I guess they could with Danny too, because the woman from 237 did scratch the fuck out of him.
That's true. Um So
So maybe he is drinking ghost booze.
yeah, um, Wendy pushes Danny out the bathroom window, and he like slides down, uh, like snow toboggan,
Mm-hmm.
and then she can't get through it herself. And I will say, this shot, you know that I love unintentionally funny things. We talk
Mm-hmm.
about how much I love unintentionally funny scenes all the time. This scene is so unintentionally Winnie the Pooh funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's she's just like flailing her head back and forth and like her hands are like it's good stuff. So she can't make it through and she presses herself up against the wall with the butcher knife and Jack starts busting down the door and does the "Here's Johnny" line,
Mm-hmm.
which was a reference to Johnny Carson, um, for some reason. I wonder if Jack Nicholson made that choice, like if that was ad libbed
It was
or
ad-libbed. Yeah,
okay.
I did not I did not include that in the notes. I mean in the movie facts, but it was on every single one of them.
I
Yeah.
believe it because it makes no fucking sense and somehow has become like the most iconic line of the movie.
I know.
like, uh, um, so Wendy slashes his hand with a butcher knife and he like retreats away. Um, and he is like he figures out that Halloran has entered the hotel, and so he sneaks up on him. And Halloran's like saying hello, like anybody here, and I'm like, don't call attention to yourself, like
Right.
stop. um, but he does, and so Jack like kills him, axe murders
He's
him.
dead.
Yeah, he axe murders Halloran, and it's very sad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because like, why is this character here?
I don't know. I don't
like,
know.
why
He
did
could.
they make us love him?
You know what? I'm not trying to victim blame anybody here. However, I would have alerted the authorities
He
because
tried. He tried.
did he try or did he just try to call the
Oh yeah, no,
hotel?
he told them like there was somebody up there that he had to deal with or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to check in because the caretaker wasn't being like good enough or whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, um, then Jack goes out and starts to. Then there's the chase scene in the hedge maze, with Danny trying to like confuse him with his tracks. Um,
Smart kid.
yeah, Danny walks backwards in his own tracks and then leaps behind a corner, and then he covers some of his tracks with the snow.
Like Thumper did in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Bambi.
Yeah. And then Danny gets out of the maze, and Wendy has left the hotel, and they get into the snowcat and escape. And Jack slowly freezes to death. So the final scene um, is
Is another one I don't understand.
the greetings from the Overlook photo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, so the camera like zooms in, and it's on an old photograph of the hotel, July 4th, 1921. Um, and Jack Torrance is at the front of the crowd. Um, so
I don't get it.
um, I think that in room 237, they say that like it's supposed to be like an old like incarnation of Jack, hence the whole like, you know, you were always the caretaker or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah. Anyway, that's The Shining.
Originally it had a different ending. Do you know that?
What was the
It
different?
showed um after Jack froze to death, they showed Wendy and Danny in a hospital and that went on for a minute, and then there was a epilogue with just a black screen with text saying, um, "The Overlook survived this tragedy, and it will like it survived many others, and it continued to be open from May till September, closed all winter." But then after the first week of screening, I mean, it was the first week of screening, um, they cut it out of the rest of the movies, and it no longer exists in video form.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So every week on Idiot's Guide to Horror, right after we tell you about the movie, before we tell you what we think about it, we like to give you some other perspectives from around the internet sphere. Um, Sometimes we call it other people's shit. Sometimes we call it other people's movie reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we call it crazy.
Hey,
Hey, you go first because I'm picking mine live on air again.
all right. This week I went to, you guessed it, Letterboxd,
Mhm.
because I have the app. It's on my home screen and it's really easy to press on. You
It's
know what I mean?
what I'm scrolling through right now.
I picked Eric Hatch's review, who gave it 5 stars. A tuxedo clad man with a furry fetish has the best night of his life ruined. No, has the best night of his life rudely interrupted by a marital dispute.
Yeah, we forgot to mention the bear thing.
It happened so briefly towards the end.
I know, and it
Um,
like doesn't make any sense.
there's a man sitting on a bed with another human being in a bear outfit going down on him.
Okay, that's I have mine. Because this has to do with what I was saying earlier about like all the theories about what The Shining is actually about, and this comes from Matt on Letterboxd. Um, I don't know if this is really about the Holocaust or Native American genocide, but it's definitely a cautionary tale about ghost bartenders. Jack orders bourbon, Lloyd serves him Jack Daniels, and everything immediately goes to pieces. So let this be a lesson to us all. Ghost bartenders are not to be trusted. 4 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
I'm iffy on the test results.
I don't think so. I like technically, like they talk about Danny very briefly, and
Mm-hmm.
then they talk about Jack.
I also don't. Okay, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's because we didn't mention it. Um, we try to do the Bechtel test for every movie we cover every week.
Mhm.
And the Bechtel test has 3 qualifiers. It has to have 2 named female characters talking to each other about something other than a man.
Right.
And I don't know if the doctor had a name. I don't recall.
Doctor,
That's my.
doctor, doctor.
They also only talk about Jack and Danny, one of who is a man, one of them is a child, an embryo, a fetus, even. But
A zygote.
I don't, yeah, I don't know if it counts or not. I don't think it passes. And if it does, it's barely. So I'm
No.
going to say no, this does not pass the Bechtel test. I tried to Google Duvernay test results, but I don't think it passes.
Um, I, mm, yeah, it's hard because like technically like he's the only character that dies on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Scatman Crothers is the only character that dies on screen, and he's a black man. The only black man. And well, there's his friends in the snowmobile rental place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he does seem to have his own sort of goals and intentions.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? No, because they're really adjacent to like just keeping Danny safe.
Danny alive. Yeah.
Yeah, and like even in Doctor Sleep, it's still the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still like he's coming back as a ghost to like help Danny. So like he kind of fits into that like mystic trope.
Mm-hmm.
Um so no, I wouldn't say that this technically passes the Duvernay test. But Scatman Crothers does give an excellent performance. Idiot's Guide to Gore, yeah, 2.5 sounds right.
I thought I gave it 1.5.
Well, 2.5. I mean, like there's a hallway full of blood.
Is that gore though?
It
Or is it
is,
just
yeah.
red jello?
Some people don't like looking at that. That freaks some people out. That's why it's there.
That's
Um,
true. Also, that woman, the bathtub woman, gross.
Gross, really gross, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and like the scene where like they keep cutting away to like the girls that were axe murdered,
Oh yeah, good point. Good point.
pretty jarring.
Hmm.
And then when he murders Halloran, it's also pretty gross.
Hmm.
Um, it's not like gross, but it's like it's gory. They don't like
Yeah.
shy away from it. Like it's not like off camera. Like we see the wound.
Hmm.
Um,
I think I'm just
so
used to like today's violence.
yeah, I mean, like when you like that's the thing. Like we have to have like the scales have to be in different places sometimes. Like
Hmm.
if it's something like Hostel, like yeah, of course, like the scale has to be something else. But like for something like The Shining, like it's gorier than like
Casper.
that's true.
Um, it's gorier than It Follows.
Yeah, yeah, that's true too. So also every week on Idiot's Guide to Horror, we like to imagine that we have been given the keys to remake or reboot the movie that we are discussing. And then we decide what we would keep and what we would throw away. So, Chris, this week, what would you keep from The Shining?
I really do like Shelley Duvall. Um, I would keep her. I would probably recast most other people, but Shelley Duvall was good in this. And I know that she was brutally tortured for this part to be this good. I would keep her dumb outfits. Um, I liked this. Okay. Shelley Duvall's good. The story's good. It's an overall good movie.
Yeah, okay,
Not
that's
much to
true.
change.
Um, so I guess like what's flawless for me is still like the score
Hmm.
that like bum, 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 that like just like it's ominous right from the beginning. It's a pretty interesting like color story, not like in a way that like Suspiria is, but like still like a hotel like makes for like some pretty interesting like colors and like pattern perspectives, and there's that like super famous like
The
carpet.
carpet.
Um Also like The Shining feels very cerebral in a way that like a lot of horror movies like yes, there are a lot of cerebral horror movies, but The Shining is like something else. It's on another level. It's like highly intellectual and sort of pretentious, but still manages to be scary for everyone.
Hmm.
So that's what's flawless for me. So what would you change?
It could have been 30 minutes shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we all know that I don't like a long movie, but
If you don't know, rewind back to the beginning of the episode.
yeah, where we named a lot of long movies. Um, if the movie is perfect, like, or if it's a great movie, I can sit through anything. But there was some things here that we didn't need, like it could have been cut out. We would have never have noticed. Like you
Um,
said with Dick getting on a plane and then riding a plane and then getting a snowmobile and calling the police. We
right.
didn't need it.
Or even
Um,
like when Wendy is radioing to the police, that goes on forever.
too long.
It's so
Yeah.
like nothing's happening. It's not important. We're not getting any pertinent information.
You're setting up what atmosphere? Like we already know what's going on.
Right.
But I would also change Stanley Kubrick being such a dick to Shelley Duvall for 5 years,
Yeah, for real.
ruining her life for the rest of her life.
Right.
Rude.
Um, but I mean, I guess his daughter is trying to like counterbalance that. Um,
That's good at least.
I think for me, there's not much I would change this time around. Like maybe I would recast Jack Torrance. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know who I would cast. I don't know who my dream casting for Jack Torrance would be. Um, but all I know is that like Jack Nicholson does already look crazy, and then when he goes crazy, he's like, nah, 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 and it's really
Please go
Difficult.
on YouTube and watch that 1 second where Cara did that thing with her tongue in her eyes.
I feel like it might have been a spot on impersonation.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. Yeah, he's just like really like too much. He's entirely too much, and like I really understand Stephen King's gripe. It's like you ruined the tension, like you ruined the build up.
Right.
Um Also like yeah, I would change Shelley Duvall's clothes, I'm sorry.
Uh,
The lumberjack chic moo thing, like I'm just
mm,
not like was like she's such a cute woman.
mm-hmm.
She's so cute. And like they just like hid her underneath layers of ugly fabric for some reason to make her
Stanley
seem
Kubrick was a dick.
meek and small and like very like homely and wife like. I don't know. But
Oh, I would also change smoking in front of the baby.
yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, we're
Mm,
it's yeah, 2021. We don't smoke in front of babies. Stop
yeah.
it. That's how we
They
know
can't see
somebody's a
how
bad
cool we
person.
are. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's how we know somebody's a bad person in a movie now. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. So what do you rate it on a scale of 1 to 5?
According to Letterboxd, I rate this movie 4.5 stars out of 5. Um, it could be 5. However, I'm so over this movie. I've seen it too many times,
So
and I
you're just
can't.
like, it's the
Yeah.
movie's fault now.
It is a great movie. It is. Is it my favorite Stanley Kubrick movie? No.
What is your favorite?
A Clockwork Orange.
I
Even
didn't
with all the
think
rapes,
you.
I know.
I didn't take you to be a Full Metal Jacket person, so
Mm, but I give it 4.5 out of 5. If they want the last half star, you cut out a couple scenes and make it more palatable for one sitting.
okay, that's fair. So it's the
What about
runtime.
you? Yeah, it's the runtime.
5 stars, Stone Cold
I
classic.
know. I read your letterbox before we came here.
But like I didn't even like say anything other than like the thing about like Jack Nicholson's tongue popping out of his face all the time. Like I just
Yeah.
rated it 5 stars and I was like, I get it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
understand why Stephen King hated him. Um but I like yeah. Huh. Yeah, it's a Stone Cold classic. It's still very like unnerving. Like it's not scary, but it like definitely still produces like it like I had some anxiety
Mm-hmm.
watching it. Um but like you said, like I've seen it so many times, like I felt comfortable falling asleep while watching it and being
Right.
like, I'll fit, I'll know. I'll know how to talk about it still. It's fine.
We
Um
used to watch this movie like growing up because it was my dad's favorite scary movie.
really?
This and Silence of the Lambs, which he can quote verbatim, but I can't watch either of them. And every time we hang out, me and my dad, he's like, "You want to watch Silence of the Lambs?" I'm like, "Sure." I can't do it, but I can't tell him that.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. Um I just like that that's the bonding. All right. So these days on Idiot's Guide to Horror, we like to give you the Idiot's Guide to Non-Horror, which is we each give you a recommendation about something that you should check out that isn't from a horror movie, just something that we're kind of into these days.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris, what's your recommendation this week?
This week, I picked the TV Netflix series The Circle. Um, it is a game show where you and 7 other people are in separate like apartment hotel suites, and you have to communicate only through an app called The Circle, where you chat, upload profile pictures, and rank each other. Um, the twist is you can be anybody that you want to be. You can be yourself. You can be an idealized person version of yourself. You can be a
Can you
complete
catfish?
stranger. You can catfish. It is a game of lying and manipulation and popularity, which is the only 3 things I care about. It is my favorite parts of Big Brother. It is the lying and manipulation parts of Big Brother. But you're in a game where you have no human contact other than um, through a messaging app. where you can share a picture like a Facebook. And at the end, the winner, whoever is voted um, most popular, is given $10,000. The third season just what day is today? What's today's date?
Thursday, September 23rd.
The third season, the last three episodes came out on the 22nd. So if you have not watched the entire thing, they are out now. You can finish it. There are three seasons on Netflix. This one just ended yesterday. They were releasing three episodes every other week, and I haven't finished it yet. So don't spoil it for me. I don't have time to watch it tonight.
um, Fair. All right. You almost make me want to check it out, but that kind of
So
stuff
good.
stresses me out. It stresses
Oh
me out
yeah.
so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this week, I'm going to be flat out honest with everybody. My brother got me a Paramount Plus subscription. Sup, Jamie? And the
Big brother.
entire I watched the entire iCarly reboot
How was it?
in like 3 days. Loved it. Did not like the first episode. I was like, oh man, like this doesn't translate. But
Mm-hmm.
then by like the third or fourth one, I was like, I'm obsessed. This is great stuff. It's very cheesy. It's very tacky. Um, but if you liked the original at all, and maybe even if you didn't, it's like really like a stupid fun way to spend like a couple of hours. Um, so that's my big recommendation. I have two mini recommendations, which is one, since we have we took a week off, which like thank you guys for allowing us to take a week off. Um, so first of all, my little recommendation is the Britney Spears reel of her like flashing her engagement ring.
Mm-hmm.
Important. And two, um, I don't know if you guys have seen, but yesterday the trailer for the Britney Spears documentary on Netflix dropped.
Oh,
Britney versus Spears.
I
Chills.
saw something about that.
Chills. You got to watch this trailer. That's
I will
homework.
watch this trailer. Yeah.
That is a mandatory assignment. So there are my three extremely lame
No, I'm
recommendations.
gonna watch iCarly.
Thank you. Oh my god,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. I can't wait to talk to you about it because it's like super like queer positive and like
Mm-hmm.
it's very diverse and just fun. It's just pure fun. Like there's nothing like that drags you down about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I think that even like now, like in sitcoms, there's always like this aspect, like every once in a while there's like this very special episode or whatever, or like there will be something really sad that happens, or there's some sort of heft to it.
Mm-hmm.
Not a thing with this, and it's like really just relieving that it's just jokes and like dumb shit just happening nonstop. um and the dynamic is all weird. I don't know. Like Freddie has a daughter and she's a big part of the show. um yeah, it's a blast. It's a good time.
Did he get hot or what?
I am incapable of like, they still all look like children to me.
I don't know. I've seen shirtless pictures of him.
Like, especially like Miranda Cosgrove, like she's a very beautiful woman, but like she looks like I just still see her as like a 16-year-old. It's very hard for me to separate that. And like especially since like the sets are the same and it's the same dynamic. I can't. Okay, okay. The picture is moving. Oh, it's a boomerang.
It's a GIF.
Okay.
Yeah. You're
um
welcome, YouTube. You all saw Nathan Kress shirtless.
um so anyway, if you watch the iCarly reboot, or if you watch The Shining, or if you want to tell us anything, you can
Mhm.
email us questions, comments, and recommendations to idiotsguidetohorror@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at idiotsguidetohorror. Um, as usual, if you want to, on Twitter at horror idiots. Um,
Don't bother.
maybe we should just take that out and replace it with the YouTube channel. And
Yeah, let's do
um,
that.
yeah. Um, and yeah, we have a YouTube channel. It's the Idiot's Guide to Horror YouTube channel. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/horror idiots. Please, if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, or I don't know if you can rate podcasts on Stitcher, but like if you have the capability to rate us, please rate us. Help other horror movie fans find us. It helps us out so much. Help anybody find us because, as you can see, we talk about a wide array of shit.
Yeah.
Um, this
You may come in
episode
here thinking this is going to be a horror movie podcast, and you're only half right.
this episode was like I would say a good 60-40, like 60
Mm-hmm.
The Shining, 40 other things.
Garbage.
Yeah. But that's the way you like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you guys like us. Um all right. Well, Chris, anything left to add? Are you
Hmm. Nope. Never waste your pain.
Bye everyone.